Okay. Yeah, we're live.
All
Give me
right.
just a minute to make an um. Just gonna upload a sort of thumbnail. I'm just ripping off the last one,
Okay.
re-uploading that one. Okay.
So we're
So
live.
I think so. I'm getting a notification on my own phone from my own channel. So yeah, that it's yes, it's live. Um.
All righty. Okay. I'll try to.
Okay. I'll just put my phone on silent. Um. Cancel. Yes. Save as that. Um. Customization. Where do I get the message? Get the chat? I mean, it should show up in this app as well, but okay. Yeah, okay. So we're live now. Do you want to share it to
Yes.
places?
Yes. I'm doing that as we speak. Um.
Somebody called Marxist Stan just followed me on Twitter.
Marxistan.
Yeah.
I can't believe Marxism is still a real thing in the 21st century. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, it's coming up. It's making a big comeback. Just
Unfortunately. Mutasif Hana.
just because America destroyed you guys for turning Marxist doesn't mean that Marxism is gone.
That was a really weak rebuttal, if you don't mind me saying. So it's
But it's
really.
true. I mean, it's true. It was devastating. You're devastated right now.
By what? Um.
Okay.
You
In
send
Discord.
me. Did you do a thumbnail?
Yes, I just ripped off the last one.
Okay. Send me the thumbnail, please.
Um. Okay. How do I send that? Okay. I'll just WhatsApp. Is that
WhatsApp it to me.
okay?
Let's do it.
So I got like 3 PCs going on here. Also, tell me, how's my voice? Because in my new apartment, there's a lot of reverb, and I'm trying to clean stuff up for future recording, and I don't know how that it's going on. Um,
It's pretty good. It's not incredible, but it's pretty good. You do sound a little ill though, a little
oh,
bit.
that's
Not.
that's cool. I always sound like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
What's going on, man?
Oh, I don't know. It's always like that. Okay. So we're starting to get some messages. Um,
Are
you
we
should
on?
check out Sex and Culture. That sounds like an interesting question. Um, okay. So let me just put away my keyboard, and I don't think that there's anything else that I need.
Alrighty. So,
Okay. So first of all, Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
walaikum salam, man. I hope you're doing good.
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, man.
Okay. So So before I begin, I'd like to. Do you have any announcements you want to make, Tariq?
Announcements? No, not really. Just stay tuned to Hikma History over the course of the next few months. I have very exciting content coming out, short form and long form as well.
You're gonna be hitting 100K inshallah soon, right?
Yeah, hopefully, man.
Yeah. Okay. Jack Meister Mongol History is officially banned from YouTube and all my other social media. He always comes in and compares me to you, and it's not based on work; it's based on looks, and that just doesn't fly.
I'll be honest with you. I think you should take that as a compliment because the bar has already been set quite high for you, and
No, I'm
I
just
think you
putting
should
it
be
on my.
grateful.
I'm still putting it on my to-do list to ban him from all my social media.
Nah, I like Jack Meister. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah, his videos are cool, but he's not cool to me. He always brings you in there.
Yeah, but why are you mad? Just get better.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's the problem in general with communists is that you guys, when you see a problem, you want to bring the bar down so that the people who aren't necessarily good enough, they feel a little better. Whereas what you should be doing is maybe bring the bar down a little bit, but strive to be better, man.
Okay, I genuinely don't agree with that, but we'll just, it's too early in the morning for communist propaganda, because it's 10 a.m. here. And actually, yes, I had scheduled this on Google Calendar, and it still says 6 p.m. GMT. But I think that there was a daylight savings or something problem. Tom, what's the guy's name? Tom Ford? No, the guy who makes videos, Tom something. The famous guy here, Tom something. His name is.
Yeah, but I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, he has a video on this. Anyhow, so yeah, before we begin, I'd like to make an announcement so that everybody knows. Um, last this year, I moved from Germany to Canada, and because in the middle of the move, Google could not verify my identity, and my channel is currently demonetized. So that's the reason that I haven't made any videos. I actually have a lot of interesting topics that I have researched and scripts and everything going on. But at the moment, since Al Muqaddimah is demonetized, I'm not making anything. And see, now I'm getting a notification for that live stream that we were gonna do. So yeah. Anyhow, so that's the reason that I haven't made any videos recently. So we'll as soon as the channel is monetized again, which is coming soon, hopefully, because I've got my Canadian ID, so I'm just gonna be doing that now. So let's see. So if anybody has any questions, we can start on that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You see, India,
Mhm.
the current socio-political climate. What do you think about it?
I think the first thing that I think is inevitable. It was inevitable.
Why?
Because there's no way that you can have a country as diverse as India, as big as India, and with as much history as India, and you can effectively rule it without having the people turn on a minority. Because having people turning on a minority is the easiest way of getting votes, and somebody just said, "Let's do it like that," and it was inevitable.
I don't know if it was inevitable, but I see your point though. I agree with you, but not because of the inevitability of people turning on minorities. I don't think that's inevitable. There's a high um, probability. Well, not even high. I think it's like above average. Let's just say probability of that happening, but no way is that inevitable. I think the problem is the partition. I think it goes back to the partition, and then a little bit before that to like just the colonial period, the kind of foundations that was set for India as a nation, or that was forming to become a nation state. It was just set on the wrong type of models.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. See, the reason I call it inevitable, because I think that the easiest way to rile up the public is to spread hatred. You can even see that happening in the UK now.
Right, right.
That's the easiest way to get votes. And I think that it was only a matter of time until someone looked at the whole situation and went like, "Yeah, let's do that. Why don't we do that?" And BJP did that.
So you think all of it is engineered from the top?
Yes, very much so. I mean, BJP is they're not even trying to hide it. And I always say that hatred or bigotry in our part of the world, it's much more blunt than it is here. Here you would have people at least trying to hide their bigotry, but there you're just open. Everybody's open. There, if you're a Hindu who doesn't like Muslims, you're going to just attack Islam. Here you don't actually hear that many people, especially in power, attacking Islam openly. Um, but there you do hear that. And like recently, the things that have happened, the shooting of Atiq Ahmed and all that, everything is. I mean, that the government did that. That's there's no secret. The CM openly talked about killing him, and so on national TV. So it's just it's well planned, and it's coming from the top, and it's simply there to get votes. So I don't think that, yeah, even if they try, ruling a country like that is very difficult. So I think that this is pretty much their only option.
Hmm. I hear that. It's very sad to see, though, especially within the realm of heritage.
Exactly.
You heard about, I think you tweeted about it, right? Them taking out Mughal history from their curriculum.
Yeah, and then that was actually meant to make the news because secretly they were taking out some smaller part. The part that they actually wanted to take out, the Mughal stuff was just a distraction. They
Mm,
took out part about the RSS being banned for a while. They
mhm,
took out the part about an RSS member killing Gandhi. They took
mhm.
they took out a part about the emergency. So basically, it's all they're trying to make sure that their children don't make a comparison from the past to now. And the Mughal stuff, that's all distraction. I mean, it doesn't concern me if they've taken out the stuff about Gandhi, but it concerns me if they've taken out stuff about the Mughals. So I talked about that. But yeah, it's meant to, in general, it's propaganda purely.
It's pretty sad to see.
Yep. Honestly and genuinely, I think about how many people are suffering, and it's this is a country that didn't used to be like this,
Mhm,
in the past. And even the other day I tweeted about an Indian poet, singer, songwriter, etc. He said that he grew up as a cultural Muslim. Even though he was a Sikh, he grew up saying inshallah and salam,
mhm,
and just he said it came natural to him.
mhm.
And that used to be the case for a lot of Muslims as well. Muslims said namaste, there was no problem with that. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so there, now it's become everything. And we were talking biryani earlier.
Mhm.
Biryani has become Muslim and khichdi has become Hindu, and everything has been divided very nicely and neatly. It's just horrible to see.
It is. It is. It is. I feel like this tends to happen when people get scared, like communities as a whole, they get scared. And I know that a overwhelming role has been played by people at the top, politicians, whatever you want to call them, policymakers. But there has to be some level of fear or worry or anxiety on the ordinary level, just ordinary civilians as well. And it's in those kind of moments that people tend to act quite
Yeah,
irrationally and emotionally, which is
and
quite sad.
they have cultivated fear as well. I don't think that there was any fear, but they cultivated everything is jihad now.
Mm,
If a Muslim man marries a Hindu woman, it's
yeah.
love jihad. If there's a
Yeah.
shrine, if
Love jihad.
yeah, everything is a jihad. Literally, they just look at something and they're like, "This is jihad." There was a community of people, predominantly Muslim, poor Muslim, who were living on government land that they had gotten the permission from the British to live on.
Yeah.
And there was like, I think, 3,000 families or so living there. And the news media, they all called it land jihad. It's land jihad, and everything just horrible. Honestly, the propaganda and everything is just it's painful to watch.
On this topic, somebody asked a pretty cool question. Do you mind if we address it?
Yep. Okay, this
Learning.
one,
Yeah, this guy.
the
If the
part.
partition did not happen, will it lead to a civil war of sort instead on the Indian subcontinent? What do you think?
I think not exactly a civil war. The thing is, here's the thing. In India right now, and coming from Pakistani, Indians are not going to like this or think that it's rational or logical. But this is just like what I think. Right now in India, you have partition movements already, separatist movements already growing up. I'm not talking about Pakistan. Pakistan has some too. Not talking about that. But in India, for example, Punjab has seen one very violent movement that was very violently crushed, and now it's starting to see another. You have a similar situation in the South. In the South, people are asking, why are we with the Union? Because the South is much more rich than provinces like Uttar Pradesh.
Mhm.
Um, so civil war, I don't think. It depends on how many countries decided to band together. It depends on how exactly the whole situation would play out. But mostly in these cases, there's a separatist movement, and it is crushed in a very, very bloody way. So that, in my opinion, would have happened. What do you think?
I think it's annoying because I don't think it's a great question. Because if you mean partition, as in we go back to 1947 and it didn't happen, what would happen? Then yeah, I think 100%. Well, not 100%, as if I'm Nostradamus, but I think it would have been very likely for a war to happen. But if you go 100 years before that, like before the partition, and that's the thing with history, is like sometimes these names we give to events, you you can't just look at them in isolation. You have to look at like the lead up of it. So if you don't want to go back 100 years, you have to at least go back to the beginning of the 20th century, the separation of Bengal by Lord Curzon, and if you go to before that period, then no, I don't think it was inevitable. I don't think it was inevitable. I think the single biggest overwhelming reason why partition happened was not that it was natural, was not a natural enmity between Muslims or Hindus. I think it was colonial practices. And not necessarily, and this is the interesting thing. I know that there are a lot of people interested in history because they want to validate their own conspiracy theories. I don't think it was necessarily, maybe it was a intention of the British to separate these people with the aim of leading to partition. I think they definitely intentionally tried to separate them in order to weaken them so that they could be easier to rule, divide and conquer, right? But divide and rule. But I don't necessarily think that they consciously tried to partition the country. But by the 1940s, it reached a stage where their policies and practices created that anyway. Subconsciously, consciously, it doesn't matter. Indirectly, directly. And I think that's the biggest issue. It's like the policies they carried out and then subsequently how they responded to them. That was the biggest issue. So if you go back to 1947, then yeah, it is inevitable. But I don't think that's a great way of looking at it.
All right. So there's a question about Indian Islam.
Indian Islam.
Yeah, people wouldn't want. I mean, somebody's already asking, "What do you mean by Indian Islam?" I don't think anybody wants to address the fact that there are all these different Islams.
What do you mean different Islams? Like different sects and stuff, or the way that they worship?
No, like yeah, like the different sects. And look, for example, in India, we're mostly Hanafi, but then we had scholars of our own who changed things. So the way that you know, for example, the Deobandi, the way that you are a Muslim in India is very different than being a Muslim in, for example, Saudi Arabia or Morocco. And so,
Okay.
also our interpretations of Islam are much more Sufi leaning, coming from Central Asia.
That makes sense.
Okay. Do you think the fall of the Ottoman Empire helped with Pakistan being created? No, not really. No, that has nothing to do with that. Should make a video on the Karmation. I would like to address that. About the Karmations, I have that planned. I have that written. I have the script ready. All of it is done. Just waiting for my channel to be monetized again, so that I can make it. It comes as part of it is with the Al Mu'tadid video, and part of it is separate. So I'm going to talk about that. The next video in the Abbasid series is going to set up the Karmatians and the Fatimids. So watch out for that.
By the way,
Yeah.
I do think that the fall of the Ottoman Empire helped in some small way to help the creation of Pakistan.
How?
Because it created the fall of the Ottoman Empire, and a few years before the defeat of their military forces in World War One. It created this sense of panic around the Islamic world, especially the especially areas that were already under European colonialism and were starting to create some sort of a burgeoning nationalist Islamist movement that was, if not asking for independence, asking for some sort of autonomy. It kind of freaked them out to see that this one beacon of Islamic power had just completely dissipated. And there were definitely major concerns across the Islamic world this happening. I mean, you have something called the Khilafah movement in India, actually, where Muslims in India, they migrated, like thousands of people, I think, if I'm not mistaken, to Afghanistan, so that they could live in a, independent Muslim country. And there was even conferences,
How'd
three,
that work out for them?
huh?
How'd that work out for them going to Afghanistan?
Not very good, man. Not very good. There was,
Yeah. Nothing good ever happens in Afghanistan.
hey, 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 hey.
I mean, I say these things to like just make a joke with you, but I know that genuine Afghans in the comments and stuff, they always get offended over stuff like that.
I know, dude. That's one thing that's quite crazy about. This is gonna make me sound really condescending and arrogant, but some of the comments that you get in these videos that I make, you make, other people make as well, it like sometimes I just think to myself, why do you think like this? And it's always the ideologues, the nationalists. I don't really get that many communists, thank God, but I'm guessing the communists the same thing. The super over the top Islamists, and some of the comments I get are just crazy. But yeah,
A lot of people on the internet take things to be some personal thing that these are things we can debate them, but there's no reason to get so angry over that. Like I get that, for example, if you're angry over an ideology that killed your grandpa or something, I get that. But people always get so passionate about that, and they're always commenting. Like I see this with Islamophobes a lot of times on my channel. Other people less so, but like anything you say, they're just going to bring Islam into it. I'm like, why? What personal animosity do you have towards that?
yeah, no, 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 absolutely. Actually, you're right. That's another group of people that I've started to attract,
Mhm.
um, because I sometimes I make videos about Muslims losing, right? Like how the Berbers lost Spain and Portugal. Um, and I'll get so many people who are not fans of Islam, let's just put it mildly, and the kind of comments that I get, they're crazy.
Yeah.
I saw another good question. Can I
Which one? Who's it by?
learn a lion? The same dude as last time. Yeah,
This
this
one.
one. Yeah.
Personally, I prefer the Ottoman Empire being around because the Middle East was more stabilized. What do you think of that video?
I don't know about that video. I haven't seen the video, but like let's just pretend we haven't seen the video. What do you think, Siawish, about that like about the prospect of the Ottoman Empire not disintegrating and still existing until today? Do you think the Middle East would be more stable or less stable?
I mean, it depends on where you're coming from. What time period do we diverge from our history? Um,
Very nice.
but I personally think that it would be. I mean, of course, we have to make an assumption. Is the Ottoman Empire still ruling the Middle East, or has the Middle East on its own became free? Um,
Can I ask you? Okay, let me set it up for you. Okay, are you aware? Because I know modern history is not necessarily your favor, right?
I mean, I read that, but I'm not an expert in that.
Right, right. Do you know about the Tanzimat reforms?
Yes,
Okay, good.
Tanzimat. Yeah.
So let's just say 1856, I think it was the Gulhane Edict, or maybe that was the 1839 one. But anyway, in 1856, they passed a bunch of new laws saying that regardless of religion or regardless of creed, all Ottoman citizens were basically equalized. So take it from 1856 onwards. So the massacres, the genocide, Armenian genocide hasn't taken place.
Mhm.
Assyrian massacres haven't taken place. They
Okay.
haven't lost that war to Russia in the late 1870s. So Bulgaria is still, at least nominally, a part of the Ottoman Empire. The Middle East is firmly in their control, and even Lebanon hasn't gotten full autonomy yet because of the 1860 massacres. So take it from the late 1850s onwards.
I think that then it would be more stable than it is. I mean, it's fairly stable now too. It's sort of something the that
Wait, the Middle East is fairly stable now?
I mean, let me explain myself.
Okay.
Uh, Westerners like to sort of this Middle East. Oh no, there's fire everywhere. But you have Egypt. Egypt is fairly stable. economically, and all that talk about all their oppression and social problems aside, but it's fairly stable right now. They overthrew their government, and well, actually, I wouldn't say it's fairly stable because their government.
What I'm saying, dude. I don't think it's that. I think Saudi Arabia is fairly basically a lot of the monarchies.
Yeah,
They're
Yemen is in a problem. Iran is fairly stable. Syria is going through a civil war. Lebanon
no,
is.
but dude, Iran. How can you call Iran like fairly stable? They've had two, like, say in the last 40 years, 45, 44 years, they've had two bouts that I know of that come to my head of protests that were major inside of the country. They have humongous economic issues. They've been having them for decades now. Um, and externally, damn near the whole world hates them. If not the whole world, the most powerful people in the world hate them. So I don't know about
But
Iran being stable.
I agree with that. I agree with all of that. But the country is fairly stable. It doesn't look like there's going to be a revolution anytime soon. It doesn't look like the
Yeah, it
government.
does. Dude, don't you know what's happening in Iran? Like the
It,
last 4 months, that
you really
lady.
think you really think that's going to lead to revolution?
Dude, okay, I'll put it to you like this. Firstly, nobody ever knows when a revolution is going to happen. So ignore that if somebody ever pretends like they do. But revolutions have happened for fewer things.
Yeah, but with Iran, when you look at Iran, its entire structure is much within the control of the establishment. It's really don't think that there's going to, because there's not the kind of coalition, especially if you compare to the 1979 revolution. There's not the kind of coalition. I mean, these very liberal people and very conservative people, everybody was on the side of the Ayatollah Khomeini at the time, because they didn't like the monarchy. So I would say that Iran is fairly stable. I mean, it's like, for example, Syria, there's a civil war going on. Yemen, there's a civil war going on. Iraq is the government keeps, yeah. So but then again, a lot of, for example, like, look at Egypt. The government is shaky. So is the Israeli government shaky? I mean, half of the governments in the world are shaky. So
But there's a difference between shaky and coup d'etats. Like they're not the same thing, Xiaoish. Like in Israel, a government could be toppled legally, right? And yeah, that's shaky. Like Britain, what is it? Three prime ministers in the span of like 3-4 years. That's
mhm.
pretty shaky. But that's not the same thing as a government getting toppled, dude. Like,
Of course, it's not the same thing as the government getting toppled by, for example, the military.
okay,
Um, okay, well, okay, yeah, I'll concede that.
Middle East is not stable, dude. That's like the last word I would use to.
Okay, let's say it's not stable. Um,
Okay.
if I think with the Ottoman Empire, it would be stable, fairly stable until, I mean, at the moment we haven't really seen new ideas being imported into the Middle East. So I think that it would be stable until the point where somebody starts asking questions and new ideas come in, and then people are like, yeah, we want independence, we want an Arab government, we want all that and this and this. So at that point, it would become. I mean, it would eventually, and if they fight a civil war to become independent, then I think it would be in the longer term more stable, because they would be carving out territories for themselves. You wouldn't have the British carving out territories for them. So I think that would be a better solution. No.
I think it would be a better solution than the one that happened, but I could still see that being fairly unstable as well. Like from the perspective of an empire, it's
Mhm.
always very difficult. This is what I feel like. It's not like I don't want to be disrespectful, but there are certain ethnic groups or minorities in certain countries around the world that are seeking to break away from a country. Dude, no country is ever going to be okay with that. It's going to have to be extraordinary circumstances. It doesn't make sense for them, like the overall supreme government, to allow you to do that. So if one country wanted to break away and form their own independence, say like Bosnia or something, like that would signal something to the other countries, like, yo, we need to do the same thing. And that's kind of in a long-winded way, and with European interference, what happened essentially, at least in the Balkans. In the Balkans, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, of course. And no country, even the UK, would not be okay with Scotland walking away. No matter how democratic they are, it's never gonna happen. With peace, it's never gonna happen. So yeah, there's gonna be a civil war in the Ottoman Empire. If you eventually, I think the Arabs are gonna want independence, even if they're totally fine, they're still gonna want independence, and then it's gonna lead to a war, and then we'll see how it goes. Okay, so do you see any more interesting questions?
Um. Oh,
English.
I got one. Sorry, a lot of these are going to be about modern. I feel like I should do more medieval. But what are
No.
your thoughts on Sultan Abdul Hamid II? Do you know enough about him to comment?
Yeah, I actually have a coin from his era.
Nice.
Sultan Abdul Hamid II is. What do you think about him, actually?
I think he's quite a misunderstood character, to be honest with you. And I
Hmm.
think he's been vilified,
Hmm.
and I understand why he's been vilified. His government sanctioned mass murders of Assyrians, and I think even before the 1915 Armenian genocide in the 1890s, there was a massacre of Armenians, if I'm not mistaken. I think, but for that reason, however, I do think he was fairly dynamic in
Hmm.
trying to provide solutions for an ailing power that was on its last leg. Um, Trying to instill within his empire amongst its citizens the sense of being an Ottoman, as being an alternative to modern nation states. I think it's quite, I don't know if admirable is a right word, but it's quite a dynamic approach. And he presided over an empire that was ailing, like weakening, dying, basically, that was essentially crippled by European imperialism, forcing them to pay debts. Um, and at the same time, he had loads of rebellions across his empire that he had to deal with, and just so many different problems going on, like the fight between modernist inclined and Islamist inclined reformers within his own empire. And I don't think he did as bad of a job as he is portrayed in many places in the West. I think he had some decent solutions to it.
I agree to that. I think he both sides have made him either too white or too black. Um,
Mm,
there's
yeah,
no room for gray. On our side, there's this TV show that I often see clips from,
I heard about it. Yeah,
the coin thingy,
yeah.
and so I think that he's been vilified or glorified too much, and he was
Mm,
much in the middle. He inherited an empire that was on the cusp of a complete meltdown.
mm,
And he managed to be the last influential person to rule it, and I think that like he tried to do things right, but he failed. And of course, anybody would have failed in that point.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that both sides go too far in their vilification. Or um,
I agree.
yeah, okay. This person's comment about Iran, yeah, I agree with that. Iran is the most resilient government in the Middle East,
Oh
because
yeah,
they've been sanctioned for 50 years and they're still standing. And with COVID, and actually, like a lot of that, I mean, people vilify Iran, but a lot of that is the West's fault. When the COVID was around, no one helped them, and so they have the West has, to a large degree, legitimized the current government. The current government's narrative that we're anti-West, all of that still stands for 50 years later as well. It stands because the West has keeps vilifying them.
wait. Can very good point. Sorry, I want to address something. You see that John Shepherd guy? Can you pin his comment real quick? It's very
Which
important.
I'm actually coming from, like, the comment that we have. I slowly
It,
come down if we see an interesting comment. Is that
okay, okay.
that way? A lot of people's comments get passed away.
All right, cool, cool. But I do want to address this point because it's important. Anyway, sorry, go on.
So John Shepherd. Okay, I'll look at.
He's like right at the bottom. It's about our point right now.
Just for this, and Jack Meister is getting banned.
My boy Hikma is here cleaning up. Come on, I'm taking out the dirt, Jack.
I want people to know that this is why I'm banning him.
No,
Um,
hey, no. All banter aside, don't ban him because I like him.
I mean, I'm joking. I'm
Oh,
not.
sorry.
Um, so this is a numismatist somebody who knows coins or somebody who collects coins? Because
Somebody who's an expert in coins, right?
I'm neither then. I collect some. I have three from the Mughal era, three from the Ottoman era. I'm looking for three more from the Mughal era to complete my Great Mughals collection. But then after that, I'm not going to collect any more.
Hey, Siawish, why don't you give me a coin? Can you give me a coin?
No,
Why?
because they're expensive. Why would I gift it to you?
Because we're friends, and I don't have any. You
You're
could
a
be the first guy.
capitalist. You're a capitalist. We're not friends.
All right, listen. So you see, this guy. This is exactly what we were talking about. Sorry, not this guy. His point, right, is this is where it comes down to nuance. It's not about excusing a genocide or not.
I don't.
Okay, I have confidence in the way that I was raised to be able to differentiate between right and wrong, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out that committing a genocide is the wrong thing to do. But that is also at the same time not going to blind me from analyzing other aspects of his administration and seeing it all through the lens of just this. Because this isn't necessarily about a moral judgment that I'm passing on his character. I don't know the guy. I never even talked to him. I don't know what he looks like. Did he shower? Did he not shower? It's not about that. It's about me, using my brain to analyze things that happened in the past without allowing my emotions to obscure any notion of objectivity that I can get a grip of. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you think like this, you are too much in your own feels. And that is a big problem because you won't be able to analyze things appropriately. Okay? You don't deserve a medal for saying that a genocide is wrong. Nobody deserves to give you a round of applause for that. That is very basic. You should know this already. Okay? But that's not what we're talking about. I didn't say any of that. Don't put words in my mouth. Don't read in between the lines. Or if you are going to read in between the lines, do it properly, especially when I'm telling you that a genocide is wrong and I laid out that that was a horrible thing to do. And it's not about Muslims needing more introspection. Yeah, actually, you're right. They do need more introspection, but so that they can get away from that way of thinking that you just laid out. All right, I'm done. Should we go on to the next comment?
There was an interesting question here. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. What do you think about him?
Oh, dude, I could sit here and talk about him for 15 minutes.
Ooh, nice.
Well, minimum 15 minutes, actually. It's funny, I have quite a funny relationship with him. When I was in my early 20s, I was such a big fan of his. Like, I was a fanboy, like the type of guy who just stands outside and waits for an autograph to be signed. But now I'm the complete opposite. I do not agree with his viewpoints. So, which is quite weird. Basically, what it comes down to is I think he was wrong in many of the reforms he carried out because what they did is they attacked what it meant to be Turkish, or forget Turkish, because what did that even mean before the establishment of the Republic of Turkey? But for the people living in that land, his reforms waged too big of a war on their identity, and he did it in too short of a span of time. The kind of reforms that he wanted to bring about, honestly, I think you need like 3, maybe 400 years before, and I think that's being quite liberal, before they get carried out. And even if they do get carried out, I think there's an argument to be had of whether they should or they shouldn't. I think his reforms, what they speak about more so than anything, what they show me more so than anything, is a sense of insecurity in his own identity or the identity of the people. Because what you're doing is you have these groups, you have these people Europeans who are leading the world in the material world, let's just say, any form of progress and achievement that there is relating to materialism, they are at the highest echelon of it, and you are emulating them in a copy and paste type of way without taking into consideration what it is about your past, what it is about your identity that could help you achieve that, but in your own way. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I think, but here's the weird thing. Even though I've said quite a strong negative opinion of him, I completely understand why he did it. Because when you're looking in hindsight at the things he did, and Tariq, from the comfort of his own bedroom, can sit here and say he was wrong, that is so easy to say that I feel like it should almost be illegal. If you were in his shoes at that time where European imperialism was as dominant as it was and your country was as vulnerable as it was, once you look at it from his perspective, you can understand why he did it, even though he was wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, actually, yes. I agree with that. I pretty much have the same thoughts on him. I think his reforms were good, but they went too far. And he was trying to, like you said, that he was trying to take something and copy it exactly on the other side, rather than have it, understand that how the Turkish population would react to that. And also, I think that he wanted to separate Islam and what it means to be Turkish. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't give enough credit to Islam. He thought that there could be, all of a sudden, you could take these Muslims and you can just withdraw Islam from them,
Yeah.
and it would be okay. That's never okay. That's never going to, because religion is very important to people. And he tried to do that, and I think that he went too far. He went a little too far, and he created the vacuum that we see now for religion. Religion has been sort of outlawed in Turkey for a while now, and so I think that that's this all of it is a natural reaction to his policies. But yeah, like you said, that in his shoes, you have to see that he made a decision. He First of all, he protected his country. It was like the only major country that was not split up, and I mean, it was split up, but still he managed to retain Turkey, the core of Turkey. But yeah, I think his reforms went too far.
I agree.
Okay.
Did you read the
uh,
Jack comment?
yeah, the blonde one. I did
Yeah.
actually say that. Um, okay. Do you want to do this
What is this?
weekly basis?
Damn. I mean, it depends on the kind of material we're working with. If we can get good enough engagement from our viewers and good enough, I don't want to sound this in a disrespectful way, but like good enough questions from them, then yeah, why not? I enjoy talking to you. I like camera time as well. Why
Mhm.
not?
Yeah, it would be, I mean, not a weekly thing. I think we should do it like once a month or so.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Why not?
Um, well, do you want to touch this? You don't talk pre 661, but the Umayyads we can just.
No, I don't talk about pre 661 in my videos and my live streams. We can talk about all of that stuff if you want. Um, do you think if the Umayyads never came to power, the borders of the Khilafah would be different? Yeah, of course they would. Why wouldn't they? But what would come instead of them?
Well, it depends on which Umayyads you're talking about. If Muawiyah didn't exist,
Oh yeah,
it's not gonna.
Muawiyah was such an important guy, man.
It's really not gonna look good. And I actually, if in my opinion, and of course it's all history, it's my opinion, but I think if Muawiyah didn't exist, then Islam would solely be an Arabic religion. It would probably not break out.
Whoa. Okay. You have to elaborate on that one for me, because that's a
So
wild statement to
Muawiyah,
make.
he held the caliphate together, right? You have a caliphate that has just come out of a civil war, a civil
Yeah.
war that started like 30 years after the death of the prophet. So you have 30 years of stability, and then you have 5 years of a bloody war. And
Mhm.
then let's say Muawiyah doesn't come to power. What would happen is local lords, especially in Iran, would rise up. Muawiyah over his 20 years of great reign, in which he kept everything together, he kept everything under control, he stabilized the thing. Without him stabilizing the whole thing, and you have to you know that you agree that the caliphate was very very unstable when Muawiyah came to power, right?
Well,
Uh,
to be honest with you, I think it was unstable throughout all of it. Like, I don't, it's like a couple of decades, or maybe one good generation here and there, where it wasn't unstable, but the whole period was unstable. Dude,
yeah.
think about the 680s,
Hmm.
the
When
third
Muawiyah
fitna,
died,
or the
yes,
second fitna,
yeah,
Yeah, the second
exactly.
fitna. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Without Muawiyah, you would have the whole thing falling apart. You would have Iran going to local lords, and at that point, I imagine the Turks would attack, and Turks would come sweeping in like the Seljuks, but like 2 centuries earlier, they would
Mhm.
come sweeping in through Iraq and Iran, Iraq, all the way to Syria. And I imagine that they would have been able to. And on the other side, you would have the Byzantine Empire. So all of the Islam, the progress that Muslims have made, it would go back into Arabia. That's how I imagine it.
I don't I love the, because I've never really heard that before. So I like the fact that you're saying it, but I don't know if I agree. I think you're placing far too much emphasis on Mawiya at the detriment of the infrastructure that was built up. And I know that Mawiya was a very, very important cornerstone of that stable infrastructure that was built up. But I don't. I feel like it's an exaggeration to say that it wouldn't have happened without him. Because think about some of the other governors, the talented people in early Islam, right? Military generals, regional commanders. Um, what about them? What about their role? How was it that prior to Mawiya? Because think about it, right? In 661, I know the Umayyads, they pushed the expansion of Islam to its maximum extent, but even pre 661, like in the year 661, the Rashidun Khilafah's map was incredible. Like, it was humongous. By that point, they've conquered all of Iran. They've conquered northern Afghanistan as well. And in the west, they've gone all the way to Libya. Yeah, Libya,
All the way to
Tunisia.
Tunisia, actually, I think.
No, I think Tunisia was 670. Kairouan, I think it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
670. But
yeah.
yeah, so they're like between Libya and Tunisia. That's quite a lot. And Mawiya, in that regard, only played a very no in the expansion. He didn't really play any role, did he?
Let me talk about that.
Go
So
on,
we have first of all Abu Bakr, the first caliph.
go on.
He stabilizes the Muslim empire after the death of the prophet.
With the Ridda wars and all of that,
Yeah.
yes,
Then we have Umar, who expands the empire.
yes.
As long as the empire is expanding, there's enough money coming into the capital to keep everyone happy.
Okay.
And Umar was powerful enough that everybody, when he issued a command, everybody just listened. Not always. I mean, with the conquest of Egypt, he was against the conquest of Egypt, but that happened. Then we have Uthman. Uthman was not able to rule, right? Because of how weak the whole caliphate was. You're talking about infrastructure, but there actually was not that much infrastructure to rule. When and
That's a fair point, but the expansion. But I feel like it still undermines your point, because you're saying that as long as there was expansion happening and money coming in to the treasury, then things were going to be okay. But that was exactly what was happening under Umar, Usman.
yeah,
Uh,
with
so
under Uthman, it had slowed down. You know, uh, okay, so people
mm,
are like, okay, yeah. See, this is where religion comes into the whole thing. People don't like Muawiyah. So with Ali, you have with Uthman, you have a man who's trying to rule the empire. There's expansion happening, very slow compared to Umar's reign, but it's still happening, and there's a little bit of money coming in. But you are starting to see the cracks form. You're starting to see that all these people who were working together to fight, they don't like each other, and so there's problems starting to appear. And then you come to Ali's reign, and there's a civil war over Muawiyah, over Uthman's assassination. And you come to begin with Muawiyah's reign. What you have is not a government. What you have is an army. It's being paid by a caliph and a couple of cities all over the empire that are Muslim. You have Kufa, you have Basra, you have Fustat, you have Kairouan, which comes in later. But yeah, so you have all these things. If Muawiyah gave the empire the 20 years of rest that it needed to actually crystallize into something. He kept the whole thing. Without him, what would have happened is this civil war would have, without a civil war, the caliph's authority would have diminished almost to a point where it doesn't exist anymore.
So what did he, for the people who are watching, that's a very good point, actually. I like that. I want to help you out. For the people who are watching, what exactly did he do within the realm of administration that you keep talking about in terms of the infrastructure crystallizing?
He actually didn't do that much. That's the whole thing. I mean, when he dies, we see another civil war because there was no structure. He did not. He failed to establish a structure. What he did was I think Michael Cooperson puts it really well. He says that he built a house of cards. He stabilized it, but he built it on his palm. And as soon as he died, the whole thing came tumbling down. But Muawiyah's own personality, he knew everyone. He kept everyone in check. He knew all the tribes. He visited everyone. He kept relationships with everyone. He kept the whole thing stable. If you wanted something, Muawiyah talked to you. He fixed the problem. So within those 20 years, the idea of Islam, the idea of this government, it sort of dissipated into the public. The public began to understand that we're under a new ruler, and he's not bad. And Islamic rule is not bad. We start seeing less resistance to Muslim rule.
Can I ask you a question? Can I push back? So, but what about the pre-Muawiyah period where, yes, you would have a Khalif that would be based in wherever, Kufa, Medina, wherever it was. But then you would have provincial governors, and those provincial governors would be responsible for making sure that things were okay in their own region, and they would have to send taxes to the imperial Khalif's office. Isn't that a very high criteria for having effective administration?
True, but what happens when those generals didn't want to listen to you, the caliph? I mean, that happened with Uthman. People didn't listen to him. That's the exact reason that he resorted to nepotism. He had to put his own cousins and family members in power everywhere so that they would be with him. So they would. And this is it would seem from an Islamic perspective as a bad thing, but very often we see that if a king is having trouble, he would put his own relatives in positions of power to consolidate power, to have make sure that people. I mean, even with Umar didn't want to invade Egypt, but Umar ibn al-As wanted to, and then he overruled him through the Shura. But with Uthman, the Shura did not actually, it was not as powerful anymore, and people basically did what they wanted. And Uthman, while he ruled with a very light hand, because I mean, of course, the guy got assassinated, and he didn't even have enough people to defend himself in Medina. This was the state of the Caliphate. People forget that this was the state of the Caliphate when Ali came to power. So Muawiyah, for his 20 years, he crystallized the empire. And then after him, there was a civil war and the whole thing. But without him, I really think that the Caliphate would have fallen apart. And there would have been a lot of Muslim lords as well. Basra, Kufa, all of these would have crystallized into smaller empires. But I think, in my opinion, Iran would have come out and Turks would have attacked. That's my opinion.
I hear what you're saying, and I can see why you think like that, but I feel like you're giving a little bit undue credit to Muawiyah. You know who I think is probably the most important person in Islam who doesn't get the credit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not the most important person in Islam, but the least credited, the one?
Yeah.
Do you know who it is? You want to take a guess, or you're going to make me talk to myself the whole
time? Abdul Malik gets a lot of credit, so I wouldn't say it's him.
Oh, I was going to say him. He doesn't get that much credit.
He get a lot of credit. A lot of people consider him the founder of Islam, even.
Wait, who are you talking about? Abdul
Abdul Malik
Malik Abdul Malik the
into
first?
Marwan.
No. I'm talking about Marwan. Sorry.
Ah, Marwan. Really? Why?
Yes,
Why does he get credit? He didn't do anything.
dude. Wait,
He
am I
was
thinking of
like
the right? Wait. Am I thinking of the right one? Marwan.
he was
So
like a million
he was
years
the one,
old.
huh?
He was like a million years old when he came to power, and his subordinates and his son did everything.
There you go. That guy. Yeah. So that guy. So the one that established the Marwanid line
Mhm.
in the Umayyads, right?
Yeah.
Did you know that he was a high-ranking official, even stretching to the beginning of Uthman's reign? And he was a high-ranking administrator. And even when all of this time is going on, he comes into power, I think, in like 684 or something.
Yeah.
He's the one. I forgot which book it was that I read, but it went into pretty good detail that when it comes to the actual putting down foundations for a state that took place during the Umayyads, it wasn't necessarily so much Mawiya as it was Marwan, because even whilst Mawiya was in charge, he was given a very important position. I forgot what it was, somewhere in the
Muawiyah
administration.
was the governor of Muawiyah was the governor of Syria.
No. Marwan under Mawiya.
Marwan was he was the governor of Medina under Muawiyah. I think he was under Muawiyah as well, the governor of Medina, and he had some bureaucratic roles as well.
Yeah. Exactly. And then even during the second fitna, he was very important in organizing an Umayyad resistance to
I mean,
the revolt that was happening in Hijaz.
I think you're thinking of Abdul
His,
Malik because Marwan he was in Medina at the time.
uh,
When Abdullah ibn Zubair came to power, he just pushed the Umayyads out of Medina, and then he went to Syria. And from what I know, he just sort of accidentally became the next caliph, because the tribes in Syria they wanted another Umayyad, and Marwan was pretty much the most senior one present there. But I might be wrong, so I don't know.
I gotta read about it more often, but
I think you're thinking of Abdul Malik because Abdul Malik was the one who laid down the infrastructure.
no, but the blueprint for the infrastructure, definitely not the infrastructure, because that happened afterwards. He died in 685 in the middle of the biggest civil war in Islamic history. How is he going to be able to do that? But the essentially the blueprints of it, and this, I forgot what I was reading exactly. I need to find it. I haven't made any videos on this, so I don't find any need to read about it. But um, it was just making the point, and I was so convinced by it. But this was years ago.
It's fine. Cool. It's cool. We can talk about it some other time. Uh, so all he did was copy. What did Muawiyah even do? All he did was copy Byzantine administration. True, but that
Yeah,
was all that was needed
yeah.
because
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
whether you like it or not, Islam does not have that much administration. So tell me about your name, channel's name, Hikma History, Darul Hikmah. What did you decide?
Oh yeah, two reasons. One, ever since I could remember, I've been obsessed with alliteration.
Mm-hmm.
The first letter of each word being the
How
same.
very Stanley.
Huh?
How very Stanley.
Stanley. I don't really
We
get the reference, but
the comic book character.
no,
Okay.
I know the comic. But did he do that too?
Yeah, he did a lot. Peter
Okay.
Parker, Otto Octavius, Dum Dum Dum.
Ah, nice. I think there's something magical when it comes to alliteration. I don't know what it is, but I think there's definitely something magical. And then the hikmah comes from Beit al Hikmah. Well, it's I guess a double entendre. A from the Beit al Hikmah, the that place, and then B uh, from just wisdom. Hikmah being meaning wisdom.
Okay. Do you want to touch this?
Uh, uh, what's there to touch? I don't get it.
Well, actually, the only thing I want to add to this is that there's no real proof that the Quran is Samarkand. It actually belongs to Uthman. There's no real proof of that.
Yeah. I will say though, the fact that it was during his reign that the first Quran was written, right?
During Uthman's reign, yes.
Right. I think that
Actually, somebody somebody countered me on that. They said, according to, there are some hadiths that say that there were previously written Qurans available at the time. So
Really?
you
I
know
didn't
that
know that.
some guy made this guy made a sort of a 1.5 hour rebuttal to my video on the Sana manuscript.
Was it good?
It was good. He made some excellent points that I will keep in mind in the future. I mean, he criticized me a lot, but he did it in a very, very mean fashion. He just made, he would try to make it humorous and make fun of me, and I really didn't like that. I thought that if you want to talk about it, you should talk about it, but you shouldn't just insult someone.
Hmm.
Still, it was a good video. I liked some of it. Okay. What else? What else? What else? Which one are you? Well, the left. The one on the left is me. The one on the right is Tariq. In case that wasn't clear. I mean, we had name tags. What happened to them?
What happened to the name? I think when you put the question up, it gets rid of it.
Oh yeah. Somebody had an interesting question here. Any video on the slave abolition in the Islamic world? I'm actually sort of, even at the moment, I'm reading this book about slavery in South Asian history. And so I'm making more detailed videos about slavery in the Islamic world. So keep an eye out for that. I mean, I've done sort of a general video, but now I'm doing a more detailed video, like the Ottomans, a separate video for the Ottomans, separate one for the Mughals, etc. So what do you see any other interesting question?
Let me see.
Okay, let me address this one. So there was another question that asked if Suleiman started the decline of the Ottoman Empire by killing his most capable son.
Oh yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Hell no. Hell no. Dude, that's such a sorry, I'm quite a passionate person. No, when people put 1566 as the start date of Ottoman decline, I can't. That's so crazy to me. What? It doesn't work that way. I mean, to be honest, that's a lie. It works that way for a lot of slightly less impressive empires throughout history. But when you're talking about an empire as great and as glorious as the Ottoman Empire, it's never just rise and fall. Do you see what I'm saying? It's rise, and then whatever this is, whatever word you want to describe for this, and then fall. So it's not like 1566 stops and then it starts coming down, because the largest extent to which the Ottoman Empire expanded was not in 1566. It was probably in 1683 or 1670s, or the late 1670s, to be honest with you. It was like not significantly, but it was bigger. And yeah, I don't think that's fair, not at all. If there's a date to put, even 1683, I feel like it's a bit too early. To be honest with you, you know where I would put it? It's once the wars versus Russia start definitively going, the results of them start going against the Ottomans. So 1730s, like post 1730s, if you want to be absolute definitive, 1760s, because that's when Egypt, more or less, like for a little period, becomes semi-autonomous, if not fully autonomous in all but name. They lose that war to Russia in Ukraine and Crimea, Battle of Kagul and all of that, and some other stuff is happening in the eastern borders as well. But like 1566, dude, that's way too early.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I think that their decline started like after the siege of Vienna, but they didn't know about it until they lost the Russian wars. That's when they found out, oh no, we had declined.
Nice, yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually working on a video about that. There's a collaboration coming where another YouTube channel will be talking about Suleiman the Magnificent's role in decline, and I will be talking about Suleiman the Magnificent in general, so keep an eye out for that. What are your opinions on the British monarchy? Do you want to talk about that?
Hell yeah. That's another thing. That's another thing I've changed my mind on. When I was a kid, up until like the age of 16, 17, the idea of a monarchy essentially, I mean, I know it's quite a strong word to use, but it's the way I feel. It disgusted me. And then something fascinating happened. Slowly, but over time, I started to warm up to the idea of a monarchy. Because when I was younger, I used to think it was a terrible idea because I couldn't understand how somebody could accept that another person was born into a privileged position and that they could ask you to bow down to them. I know this sounds like a very small thing, but the idea of physically bowing down to another person, even if it is like a cultural gesture, like I'm not trying to denigrate any cultures, but those cultures which include you bowing down to somebody, I can't do it. Fair play to you. You guys do your thing, and I hope your culture stays alive. Me, the idea of bowing my head down to like another person, it seems really, really creepy to me. So I would really get up on my feels, and I wouldn't understand why somebody would like bend down on one knee and bow their head as they're getting knighted by the queen. But over time, I started to realize the functional utility behind having a monarchy in terms of giving a society stability and, more importantly, continuity.
Really?
And now I'm at the stage where I like it. I like it. As long as the monarchy is not overbearing in its use of authority and it doesn't do, what I like to call dumb acts, dumb behavior, and instead carries itself with this conduct of dignity, um, then I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. Continue with it, right? Because the world changes, especially nowadays in the 21st century. People who think they like change, wait until you encounter proper change. Change is a very scary thing. And that is not a rationale or a justification to stop and stand in front of change. But don't go into change thinking, this is going to be great. Like, be at least a little bit alert. This change could go south. Something bad could come out of this. And when you have forces, be it religion, be it tradition, be it any kind of belief that you want, whatever it is, be it a monarchy, that helps ground you as you're going through this change, I'm here for it. I'm going to give it a salute. I'm still not going to bow down my head because that's quite creepy and weird to me, but I support you. I'm here for you.
You're giving way too much credit to the British monarchy. They don't do it.
No. Okay. By the way, before these people in the comments, they get up in their feels, because I know you're getting up in your feels. That is not admonish, I think that's the correct word, or that does not justify things that have been carried out in the past by the British monarchy, negative things, crimes against humanity, whatever you want to call it. I still think that those were terrible things. I'm looking at it from a functional perspective in the present, which I think, with all due respect, is probably the best way to look at things most of the time. You know what I'm saying, Selwish? I convinced you in it.
No, you didn't. Not even a little bit. Like, you have this old lady who's ruling, and I mean, of course.
Hey, she passed away. Come on. Past tense.
Okay.
Her son is ruling now.
I'm just like saying, and then you have her son. What difference has actually been to the British society? I mean, there was, a couple of days of mourning, and
you can't see. This is the thing, right? And I understand where you're coming from, because I think in a very material way a lot of the times. But this is something that I never want to say something's impossible, but it's something that's very difficult to quantify. It's more to do with like
vibes.
vibes. I love vibes. Yeah. No, but like subconsciously, I feel like people who have this stable structure going for them, subconsciously, without them even necessarily being aware of it, it gives them a way to allow continuity to happen. So then when change does happen, they don't freak out as much because they have this thing that's bringing them together, which is never a bad thing, let's be honest, bringing them together, and B, it's helping them move forward through change. And what's wrong with that?
I mean, I haven't been to Britain, so I don't know how people feel about about that whole subconscious thing. So, but I really don't think that the monarchy at this point, if whether the monarchy exists or not, it doesn't really matter.
No,
But
it does matter, dude. What's wrong with you? It does matter. Dude,
yeah,
think about it, right?
it
In
matters.
Britain specifically, we've had 3 prime ministers in the span of 3 or 4 years, I forget, right?
Mhm.
So that is naturally going to induce people, subconsciously, consciously, it doesn't matter. The result is the same. It's going to induce people to be in more of an anxious state that your authority figures are switching quicker than you switch what is your favorite TV show. Now, when you have that going on, and then you contrast that with this office, with this system that has been in place for what, Alfred the Great in the late 9th century, for 1100 years, it's going to give a little, oh, okay, no, well, at least we have those authority figures and they kind of know what they're doing. And trust me, it's not supposed to be super logical. People are naturally going to revert back to those kind of things. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
This is why if you are an authority figure, you are not allowed to fail. I say this to people, and I know it sounds like a crazy harsh thing. If you're a politician, don't fail. You're not the same as me. If Siawish and me fail, it of course it matters, obviously, but it doesn't matter as much as when you fail, because you're an authority figure, like not in the way that I will bow down to you, but you're above me. Your decisions mean more. Don't fail. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you have a royal family that doesn't induce so much controversy, and I know there are certain princes. Andrew is doing some crazy stuff, but if it doesn't induce too much controversy and it's not all over the place, this is why that stuff that was happening with Harry and Meghan, dude, when they did that show, what are you doing? Just keep your mouth quiet. Why do people always feel the need to talk about something? Don't people know how to shut up anymore? Just be quiet. Sorry, go on.
This is the only reason that monarchies should exist. I mean, I agree with that.
I like that. I like that. Hey, Matt, how you doing, man?
Um, so there was an interesting question here. So, but there was a question about slavery and caste system. Um, that's a very, very complicated topic, and with India being very, diverse, slavery. But of course, I do want to talk about. To be honest, I want to talk about slavery in India, even if it's not related to Muslims, because I get a lot of comments about by Hindu nationalists who keep going on about how Muslims enslaved and this and that, and I want to say like, yeah, y'all did that too. So yeah, this guy. I mean, I'm gonna talk about that. Do you want to
Okay,
talk about the caste system?
Siawish, real quick. I got 10 minutes, and then I got to bounce.
Oh yeah, okay. So do you see any other question you want to answer?
Um, mm, there's a really good question, but I don't have the expertise to answer it. I feel like I should make a video about this.
Is
I
it?
don't know why I'm stopping. How Chad mapping at 7:12 p.m. How has the Soviet Union affected Islam in Central Asia? I don't have the know-how. I wish I did, man, because it sounds like a great question.
Yeah, that is actually a great question. I actually bought a book about it, and I will be looking into that.
Hey! I call dibs on it. Don't make a video.
I mean,
I
you can make the video, and you can show people how not to make the video, and then I'll come in and I'll make the right real video.
don't do that. Don't do that. Come on.
I'm gonna do
Well,
that.
you got a bigger audience than me. It's not fair. You're gonna win.
Yeah, that's true. But also, my videos are just better, so there's also that.
Dude, I'll tell you something. My videos are getting real good now. You can't hide. No, think about it. Do you actually watch my videos? Be honest.
Yes.
Are they not getting much better?
Yeah, I didn't like your last one, but that's because my opinions are right and
Oh.
yours are wrong. So
No, that's fine. But like the actual production quality, is it not upping?
yeah, that was better.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
I think I mentioned it to you as well that I like the way that your videos have been going recently.
I'm trying real hard, man. I'm looking at tiny little nuances. All I need to work on is just to pump out content more frequently, and then we're gonna take over the world.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean you're gonna hit 100K inshallah soon. So
You know what we should do sometime in the future, Siawish?
mhm.
I feel like people will get real excited about this. Me and you, we should start a channel together. I don't know why we haven't done that, to be honest.
What for?
What do you mean? No, like a history one. Like basically what we do, we combine it to make one Islamic history channel. See, I wish, I'm not even exaggerating. You know, we would take over the world, right?
Okay, I mean that makes sense.
No, like
We can do a Mapman sort of thing.
a what?
You know Mapman? You don't know that? Jay Foreman?
Dude, I'm not as nerdy as you. I
He's
go
from
out and I
London.
get.
You should know all the London YouTubers.
I don't know what that is. But anyway.
Uh,
Okay. Any cool questions? Damn, there's so many questions coming in. How many people are watching?
can I touch this one?
Which one?
This one.
Yeah, of course, go for it. I don't know what's going on, but go for it.
I don't think I'll be going into that much detail about local history, so yeah, probably not. Oh, hey, that's a good one.
Just pushing it back.
This is all the
Alex
guys.
Imperialist. It's this guy again, John Shepard, dude.
He gets a thumbs up.
Consider doing a video on the history of socialism and/or labor reform. Guys, I want to make it explicitly clear. I don't like communism, okay? And I'm not going to be bullied off this position. So, would you ever? I was going to say I don't care about socialism in the Islamic world, but then I realized I'm being emotional because I am fascinated about Baathism, Jamal Abdel Nasser, all of these people. But this guy, I don't even know why you're pinning his comment.
Leftists on our side of the world were much more interesting than leftists were in the West. I mean, in South America, they were very cool too.
Very interesting too. Yeah, I was just gonna say yeah.
In the West, they were gonna.
Do me a favor. Sorry, do me a favor. See, I wish unpin this guy's comment.
No, I actually want to talk about it a little bit.
Why? What is it?
I actually wanted to say that. Yes, I am going to be making a video on that. I recently bought a video by some French guy about Marxism in the Islamic world. I recently made a post when Karl Marx's death anniversary was. So yeah, I'm going to be making, because I'm fascinated by socialism in the Islamic world because it's been very interesting. So yes, I'm going to make a video about that.
I'm very fascinated by it as well, but I have imperialist tendencies. That's such a unnuanced.
You have imperialistic, colonial, and capitalistic tendencies. You're like 100 years behind everybody else.
Dude, that's literally like a 9-year-old's way of thinking. I show a little bit of nuance and people go, oh my God, I don't understand Tariq. He's such an imperialist.
You show nuance. You show old ideas. Also, I'm wearing a Useful Charts t-shirt.
That's a great t-shirt, by the way.
What really old
ideas? I know. I don't care about old or new ideas. I care about ideas that work and don't work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and yours don't.
What are you talking about? All right. Man is born free. They were still expanding.
Okay, I can actually get you canceled right now by asking you to talk about Andrew Tate.
Dude, if that gets me canceled, I'll be flipping really annoyed. But yeah, let's not get canceled.
Yeah, let's not do that. Do you see? He likes monarchies but dislikes communism. Talk about brain damage that goes during. I like this guy, Felix II.
You and your little echo chamber, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like that I've got a lot of Marxists who are very engaged on my channel. Actually, I had a bust of Marx that used to be in the background of my videos. That one got broken when it was in transit from Germany to here. It broke.
Oh, damn.
Sort of shattered. Okay, I just want to give a shout out to Jay Foreman. Jay Foreman is the pinnacle of British comedy. And
who's Jay Foreman?
It's a YouTube channel, man. Come on, I'll send you a link. It's horrible that you don't know him.
I don't know anything about.
He lives in London. You should know. I know every YouTuber from Vancouver.
Jay Foreman. Do I know this guy?
No,
I never even seen this guy.
You should. He's really cool. He makes really good videos.
Okay. Any other good question? As Eastern living in a British Dominion, I have grown to adore the crown. Eastern.
Yeah. Okay. Is that a comment from that from UK's foreign minister?
Which one?
The one about living in.
No.
because that's peak migrant mentality, especially Desi migrant mentality.
All right.
You want to talk to this?
Yeah, a little bit. So I think the majority of this influence from Islam and Arabic culture on Latin America actually happened in the last 100 years, or maybe like a little bit more than 100 years, 120, 150 years. And it was because of migration from the Middle East to Latin America. I didn't know this, but my mind was blown that
Really?
apparently you can find up to 8 million, maybe 10 million Brazilians who have Levantine, Lebanese, and Syrian heritage. And they moved there in the last 130 years or so. Did you
People
notice?
people from Lebanon are found everywhere. It's a tiny country. How many people do they have?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
there was a tweet about it too, that Lebanese are everywhere.
yeah. So it's pretty interesting because it's all over the place. It's in Venezuela, it's in Brazil, I think Colombia as well, even Mexico. The guy who was the richest man in the world for a little bit,
Hmm?
Suleiman, whatever his name was the richest man in the world for a bit. He is Lebanese heritage. Salma Hayek, the Hollywood actress, she's of
Hmm.
Lebanese heritage as well, I think. Yeah.
Lebanese are everywhere. There was a video I had a bookmark of an article about sort of Muslim styled places in South America, which were I mean that's basically from what I read that was pretty much the only heritage of Islam before what Tariq is talking about that existed in South America. Other than that, there was not much. True, Lebanese are everywhere. Anakin al Skywalker slaying of the do you find anything interesting?
Um,
Well, not interesting, but rather something you want to talk about because they're all interesting.
no, they're not. Not all.
Come
See,
on.
this is the thing with Siawish is he will sugarcoat things for you. Some questions are better than others.
Yeah, you should insult them and attack their self-esteem.
If your self-esteem is getting targeted by just a little cute comment by me like that, then there's you got bigger problems, my friend.
I'm going to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk.
How, yeah, yeah.
Thing is that it has failed every time it has implemented is because the U.S. or the CIA manages
Oh,
arranges a coup,
yes.
and so
That's
you have
so
that.
cute. That's so cute.
I actually am going to be applying for a U.S. visa soon. I hope they don't see this.
That's hilarious.
What is the rumbling?
I have no idea.
Just like that, unusual historian was also banned from Al Muqaddimah.
Mad love for you, unusual historian. You know the truth.
Even though the Russians were less story, okay. And this is gonna go into too much detail now.
Okay, Siawish, my
Yeah.
friend, it has been an honor,
All
but I
right. So
have to
you
go.
gotta go now. Yeah, it's iftar time right there.
Yes,
Ah,
yes, it is. But listen, we should do this more often. Let's do
yeah.
one in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this time it's really because I have to wake up at like 9 now to make a to do this at 10. Uh,
In a couple weeks' time, obviously, I won't be worrying about iftar and all of that, so we can do it later. You see
Also,
what
you
I'm saying?
guys are gonna go on to daylight saving as well, so it's gonna be at 11, right? I think
I
so.
think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that stuff really confuses me a lot. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really confusing.
I don't know why they do that, but still.
Yeah.
People, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Some great questions. Make sure to subscribe to Hikma History. I got some great content coming. Also, subscribe to Al Muqaddimah if you haven't already. And we're going to be doing this more frequently. I've become the host because that's just what's happened. It's the reality now.
No, he took over.
And I took over, yes. Colonialism, baby. I'm joking. So, yes, it was a pleasure. And I'll see you guys soon. Say I wish, my friend. Take care.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to everybody for questions. And Eid Mubarak to everybody in advance because there won't be another till. Yeah. So thank you very much, and We'll talk some other time.